Alrighty, good evening and welcome to the Resilient Living Podcast. I am Jared Wilson, joined by my friend.
Hey, I'm Ryan Steva.
Yes, my friend Ryan. Alrighty, while people trickle on in, we're getting live on all of our other platforms because there's a delay and it bugs me because I can't just hit and go live. Alrighty, there we go. Okay, so welcome to the podcast. We're going to talk about why in the world I should care about fill in the blank. I had a whole plethora of things to go over. But before we get going, make sure that you, if you're not already following Ryan on his social medias, go over and follow him on YouTube and Facebook. Although you don't have an official homestead consultant Facebook.
No, I don't. I just have my personal page and I kind of share my other socials from there.
From there, yeah, there you go.
Yep.
So yeah, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We got to break these algorithms that hate us. And with that, yeah.
Yeah, they're not big fans of what we talk about, are they?
They certainly are not. I was talking to somebody today about marketing. I'm like, yeah, marketing doesn't work on our content. Like the standard marketing approach just doesn't fly.
Yeah. Yeah, you put out one thing, you say the wrong thing, even if it's in an appropriate context.
Right.
And we say a lot of things that don't really follow the mainstream. So I think we're getting, flagged, I would expect.
Oh yeah, even when I will pay for a Facebook post, I'll get like 12 views.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait, I paid for views. How's that
how's that supposed to work? Yeah.
Right. Take my money and not show it to anybody.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I paid for like Google views or something at one point, and
Sure.
or I did Facebook as well, and it's like it was not showing content to the people in the demographic I was asking for.
Oh yeah, that's useful.
And like the views clearly were coming from bots, and I'm like, why am I paying for this? So
yeah, exactly. Thank you, Kelly, on TikTok. Appreciate it. She says, keep up doing the good work, saying the truth. Heck yeah, man.
We'll do our best.
That's what we do. That's right. That's right.
So, Jared, you want to kind of tee up what we're going to be talking about? Why you said, why should I care? I think this is kind of in the, for the typical for us, homesteading preparedness.
Yep.
Probably a little more preparedness minded. But give us a little bit of why you were thinking of this. What made you think of why should I care?
Sure. So in my, because I'm always trying to find good, useful content that I can share on social medias and in my endeavors in looking through the different preparedness pages. There's a lot of kind of fear-based stuff out there. And I don't like that. I don't want to be pushing a fear-based preparedness mindset. I want people to be confident in their life and livelihoods because they're prepared, not preparing because they're afraid of something. So that was kind of what really started it. And then as I was diving into like what topics to talk about, there's so many different things that that I saw people fixating on, and at the detriment to other areas. And so the question I thought was like, okay, well, why should I care? Why should I care about this thing and not this thing? Well, no, the answer is really you should care about lots of like all of these things. So that was kind of so I came up with this massive list, and I don't expect us to get through the whole list, but I wanted a lot of different options here because there's a lot of different things that we really should care about, that we should be prepared for, and we should think about. But again, not because we're scared, not out of fear, but because we want to be resilient in our lives, in our livelihoods.
Yeah. Well, I think, most people watching this have probably seen or heard of the show Doomsday Preppers.
Yes.
And if you ever watch it as a cautionary tale, not as a how to do anything.
Right.
Right. The cautionary tale is people get in their mind a given scenario and they plan for that given scenario, but you'll see people planning for some like Mad Max scenario, and then they don't have proper water preps.
Well,
or
right.
Or whatever it is, because they're so focused on the defending their bunker against zombies or whatever.
Yes.
That they completely forgot something that's extremely important, and they're not going to live beyond a few days because they didn't prepare properly.
Yeah.
And had they had a more rational, thoughtful mindset and thought about the greater picture and the most likely things that could go wrong and prepared for the larger eventualities in a way they can live better every day,
Yeah.
they'd be a lot better off.
Well, right. Yeah. And so that was my number one is preparedness isn't about the apocalypse.
Mhm.
Because it's not. It's about ordinary stuff. Gosh, it's a snowstorm. It's a downed tree. It's a power outage. It's a tornado. It's um, losing your job. I mean, think about that. So we think about the catastrophic things that might limit us, so we don't have power. Okay, you lose your job. Now we have a whole nother set of issues where we're trying to figure out how to make it, how to put food on our table. Those kinds of things happen. I mean, corporate downsizing is a thing, right? This is a rough market. I know. So there's a lot of different things. So preparedness really isn't about the apocalypse, like you're saying. It's about day to day life and being prepared, having that little buffer there to take care of, so that you don't have to go out in a snowstorm to get to the doctor because you've got some stuff prepared, you've got some medicine available, you've got the training and the education to back it up. I'm a big proponent of education and having knowledge at your disposal.
Yeah. Well, for sure. I mean, knowing how to do things and knowing how things work and building that mindset and those skills over time will put you in a much better position when something goes wrong to know how to, have a quick backup, build something out of what you already have, fix the thing you have, etc.
Exactly.
I mean, you never want to be in the situation of having to fix your carburetor on your generator in the middle of a snowstorm, but knowing how to pull that carburetor apart and an hour later having power, that's, you know, that's second best to actually running it consistently to make sure it's not gummed up, right?
Exactly. And doing. I mean, I want to say North Georgia Homestead Supply. Didn't they do or they're getting ready to do a small engine repair and maintenance class?
Good chance. I have
I
not
think
checked in, but
I
yeah.
saw something Dylan had posted last week, I want to say, and that's a great resource. Heck, I could probably find some people to put together something like that for this area. And that'd be a great thing because yeah, having to be able to go through and bring your equipment and you're like, hey, let's check this thing out. Let's make sure it actually functions the way it's supposed to function.
Yeah.
Whether
Well,
it's your
you may not
chainsaw
admit
or
to it, but I'm pretty certain you could teach that class.
I, I mean, technically, yeah.
I mean, what you're doing is you're teaching people at a level beyond, beyond where they're at, but
Yeah.
before where you're at. And so,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you
not
know,
master level class. So we're talking just like, hey, let's get this thing functional and running.
yeah. Yeah. What are the basics? How does an engine work? How does a four stroke work? How does a two stroke work? What do you need to know to make sure that you're not damaging the engine? Make sure how do you sharpen a chainsaw? Just simple little things that people need, or even just how do you keep the chain properly tensioned and what is the proper tension?
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah, and
little things
checking
like
your
that.
oiler and making sure that it's lubricated properly and all the there's a lot of
Hmm.
little things that can easily get gummed up, especially like on a chainsaw where you have none of the most hospitable environments, right? It's running extended periods of time with sawdust. You're setting it down in the dirt potentially. Like there's potential for a lot of damage and it's not even negligence. It's just use.
Hmm.
Um, and they just needed some care. And not everybody grew up in the woods. I was blessed. My dad. We would go up in the woods every year and cut the firewood and load up the truck. And I remember driving at. I think I was not even, maybe 8 years old driving the truck. Um, I didn't know. I was like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll drive it. That's sweet. Um, I didn't think anything of it. And he's teaching me how to start the chainsaw and how to buck up the logs and how to roll them downhill. And it's like, hey, we're going to fell this, but we're going to fell it this way so that it doesn't roll down the hill, so we don't have to haul it up the hill. Like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
But not everybody had that.
Yeah, not having somebody like there's a lot of things where as a consultant, I've had to step back and go, not everybody has had the experience I've had. Not everybody has the brain the way that
Yeah,
my brain works. One person can sit down and read a book that in, an hour that takes me 5 weeks, right?
sure,
So,
right.
but their brain may not understand the way that a system pieces together in the way that mine does. So,
Hmm.
um, I always have to step back and realize that somebody else isn't going to be thinking of this the same way I do. And how can I help them start to process it and give them a leg up that I have that maybe they don't?
Yeah, right. And that's I've got it in here, but it's community. It's
Mhm.
is you're fulfilling something and providing value to them in a way, in a meaningful way, and then they can in turn provide meaningful, to you. They can, maybe they can take that book and they can distill it down to something super tangible and useful and succinct to you, and say, here, this is the takeaways from this book. Done.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me cliff notes.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, but I think your framing of preparedness as insurance as opposed to preparedness as I'm 100% prepared for XY scenario. It's
Right.
I've created a buffer so that I will have space to make the next thing work where I need to
Yeah.
or
I
to
mean,
get me
because
through something.
if something happened, and we were talking about it right before the show, if something happened, I'll be fine. I'm, and it's not an arrogance position. It's just like I know that I, between what I've prepared and what I know and what I've experienced, there's not a lot of scenarios that could lead to very negative outcomes. I would be able to find food and find water, or I have food and I have water. Um, so yeah, just being prepared to continue living life, as close to normal as I can. I mean, if at all possible. If I see this as being a short term thing, I'm gonna live life fairly normally. If I see this as a long term thing, yeah, I'm gonna cinch up my belt and we'll hunker down. Yeah,
Yeah, I think, and that comes to a point we've talked about so many times before. Don't have a seed vault.
yeah, right,
Tens of $1,000 seed vault.
right,
Like, go plant a garden and start saving seeds. Learn that skill. Prepare your soil. Do the things that actually make your life way better, anyways. And now you have to spend less time in an office making the money to buy the seed vault that you don't even know how to use.
exactly,
And
dude.
so you're
My
making your life better
my
overall.
pepper garden like went gangbusters. I made some just baller pickled peppers and salsa. That was wonderful.
Awesome.
Oh, that was so good.
Yes, lacto fermented pickled peppers are some of the best. Like, I've never had anything better as far as out of the garden. They're
Right.
amazing.
Heck yeah. And hey,
So,
that's a pretty good segue into food security, which is like,
yeah.
should be one of your top priorities. Is the overarching preparedness idea, and then food security. And like we were talking about, like I was just talking about my pepper garden. You don't need to grow a huge garden. You don't need to have 100% of your food coming from the garden. You don't. If you can just get a couple percent of your food coming from the garden, what that's doing is that's instilling in you the confidence and knowledge and experience that you can. And as time goes on and time and space allow, you grow and grow, and you increase that garden. You
Mhm.
do something a little bit more complicated. Something that's not quite as simple as peppers. Peppers are pretty straightforward and simple. So
Yeah.
I started there.
And and as you're learning, you might go, well, I'm going to start with some raised beds
Yeah,
and grow, higher value things like peppers or greens or whatever it is, right? And then maybe you start experimenting with something that's a little bit more like row cropping, where you would never do corn in a raised bed. That wouldn't make sense.
right. No,
And sweet potatoes, maybe not, but at least here in Tennessee, you can generally plant sweet potatoes in the ground as long as you have loose enough soil
yeah,
and get a pretty decent crop. And weed control is fairly easy because they kind of take over an area. And if there's a few weeds, no big deal. So you can learn a chunk at a time and a technique at a time rather than thinking that you have to do this giant thing immediately.
Right. And that's one of the things I really want people to take away. And we've said it before is not not biting off more than you can chew. Just do something simple. An herb garden. An herb garden is a really good place to start. Peppers, really good place to start. Like
Mhm.
you can get into like some of the tomatoes. Like then you're having to deal with bugs, and you're having to. There's it's just more complicated. Just start simple. I mean, even if it's in your windowsill herb garden, like cool, that's awesome. You're growing herbs.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So, what do you think? Why should people care about water storage and
because water's
filtration?
life. Because water's life, and having water is not the same as having safe water.
Mhm.
Um, there's entirely too many diseases that float around in bad water. Um, Maybe you live in Van Buren County and you just have bad water, and you need to have water filtration. You need to prioritize that. Prioritize that. Get good water filtration. Um,
Or maybe you played Oregon Trail in
Dysentery died.
in elementary school. You have died from dysentery.
Our entire generation's traumatized. I swear. But no, seriously, like water filtration. I think people get intimidated by it, and rightly so. It's a complicated thing, and it's an important thing. So I get it, but it's really not super difficult to get set up. And if you've got questions and you live in the Middle Tennessee area, um, hit me up. I mean, whether it's on social media or coming by the shop and just talk. I'd love to talk to you about water filtration systems, whether it's an in-house, whole house system, or a tabletop, or little Brita style pitcher in your refrigerator, whatever. We can definitely get you set up with something, because water filtration is really important, especially if you're in rural areas. I've had several clients come through, and they were just going through quite a lot of filters. I'm like, where are you getting your water from? I'm like, oh, we have a well. I'm like, okay, so we're going to set you up with a sediment filter that you can
Mhm.
pre-filter your stuff, because they were just impacting their poor little filter. Like, okay, your filter's actually fine. It's just packed on the outside with crud. So
Mhm.
we're gonna set this up, set it up separately. We're gonna filter out, pre-filter it, and then we're gonna run that through there. And I think it saved them. I'm seeing them at least a third less than I was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way to do it. You pre-filter the water to the extent you can. If you're on city water and you're trying to get fluoride and other things out,
Right.
you can get a lot out with things like a CTO filter,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not going to be everything. And then
Right.
you can get the rest of it with something like your Berkey, and you can make, or Aquapure or whatever.
Yep.
There's a few other brands. What do you carry?
Alexa Pure.
Alexa Pure. There we go.
Yep.
So there's lots of,
Burrow's another good one.
yep. Um, lots of options for that, but if you pre-filter it, you've removed so much that your secondary filter doesn't have, that's really expensive, doesn't have to do as much work. And if you can get the chlorine and things out of it before it's in your shower,
Yeah.
and you're breathing in all that,
All that. Yeah. Vaporous
yeah, all the vaporous
nastiness.
chlorine into your lungs, you'll be better off. So yeah, pre-filter is pretty useful.
Yep. And water's because of its nature, it can carry a lot of stuff from like you're saying, chlorines and chlorides to and fluorides to microplastics. And so it's really, really important to try to minimize as much as possible our ingestion of those things. Don't
Yep.
worry too much about. I had a customer come in and they were asking like, "Oh, but it's going to remove all the minerals." Like, suspended minerals, like ionized minerals, are so small. You're not going to remove those unless you're running an RO system where you're
Mhm.
doing full on reverse osmosis. You're not going to at least the ions, side of things. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and the other thing with water that people should be aware of, especially since we have a high audience in Tennessee, is that much of Tennessee and a lot of the Southeast, for that matter, they don't just use chlorine; they use chloramine.
Yes.
And chloramine is basically the chemical process here is using ammonia plus chlorine, and it bonds in a way that causes the chlorine not to evaporate as easily, so you get less of the smell. And now
Mm-hmm.
you've got chlorine ammonia mixture as chloramine that's much
Ugh.
harder to filter as well.
Right.
And so that pre-filter with the CTO or something similar that's going to remove a decent amount of that, and then a secondary filter that's going to really get down to the base level as low as you can get with that, because that's they'll you can find it in the literature. They're using it because chloramine is more stable as far as its reaction with pipes, so it causes less corrosion and damage to the pipes,
Oh,
and it also breaks down slower, so it can make travel further through the system before it's broken down into its component parts.
sure. That makes
And
sense.
so it's very commonly used and is difficult to detect because it doesn't really smell because it doesn't evaporate.
Sure, sure.
So, okay, physical
I get that.
fitness. Why should we care about physical fitness?
Because it's a multiplier. Because if your physical fitness, so what it doesn't matter if you're talking about gardening. Let's talk about gardening. Your ability to go out and garden is going to be impacted by your physical fitness level, be it strength, flexibility, whatever. So physical fitness is really important that we need to prioritize. And we've talked about it. I mean, we had Elliot on twice
Mm-hmm.
talking about physical fitness. It's really important, because of how it pertains to and is a multiplier for every other function of our life. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter if you're imagine you had an emergency, there was a car accident and you needed to extract a person. Can you physically get to them,
Mm-hmm.
get them out, and relocate them? Having had accidents right in front of the shop and responded to them and dealt with, being the first on the scene. Praise God, I had, a trauma nurse with me, and he just, he owned the scene. It was great. Um, but having the physical fitness to be able to rip a door off of its hinges and get this poor little girl out from being pinned between the door and her seat. It was an important thing to have that. Adrenaline goes a long ways. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but adrenaline is going to amplify your pre-existing abilities, just like your pre-existing abilities are going to amplify everything else. So don't rely on being able. Oh well, adrenaline will carry me through when I need it. Don't rely on that. For
Right.
one, you're probably going to end up tearing things if you do that. People. Oh well, people lift cars off of kids. Yes, they do, and they rip all of the muscles off their back.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that.
You're right.
I'm not
Well,
saying
and
everyone needs to be a strong man, but like, try to push yourself and become as physically fit as you can.
there's another side to this too that we don't talk a whole lot about, but so in preparedness world, which I honestly just am not a huge part of in general, but in preparedness world, there's a lot of like, go to your doctor, get prescribed several months of whatever the prescription you need,
Sure.
right? In physical health and fitness, a lot of times you can actually get off of those prescriptions. And so now you're actually prepared long term
Yes.
because you don't have prescriptions. But that then ties into financial preparedness
Mm-hmm.
because now you also don't
And
have
health.
this repeated cost of going to the doctor and getting prescriptions and medication and all higher insurance because of diseases and all those other things that get tied in. Physical fitness combined with better diet will give you better mental clarity. It will
Mm-hmm.
um, you'll do a lot better in emergency situations because your brain won't be stuck on anxiety. And I thoroughly believe that our modern system has been intentionally built to cause constant anxiety.
Yes.
And so people are constantly on SSRIs or other meds that addle them. To be
Yes.
honest, I'm not making fun of anybody, but
No, but it absolutely has impact on cognitive function, memory retention, um, yeah, the ability to have a clear thought is, yes, it has
Yeah.
absolutely impact. And I would say, yeah, our health is tied directly into that. And we'll go back to water filtration. The presence of nanoplastics has been found in the lining of your arteries,
Hmm.
and part of that inflammation that we're finding with the buildup of plaques of in our arterial walls is trying to encapsulate some of those nanoplastics.
Yeah.
So some of our heart disease issues is a nanoplastics issue that's being masked and seen as, oh, well, that's the problem. Well, no, that's a symptom.
Hmm.
Don't conflate a symptom with a problem.
Right. Yeah. Cause this, I mean, the things that we do that introduce plastics to us, like, I don't know, chewing gum. Do you know what gum base is that's listed on the ingredients to
Nasty.
every gum you can get? With the exception of what is it, like underbrush and a few others that are actual, like,
Right.
real gum resin. um but yeah, I mean, you've got gum, you've got let's say water bottles, plastic
Yep.
water bottles that get transported in a hot truck that probably
As
then sit out in the sun for a while, and then
heat
you
is a
drink out of
big
it.
element. Like, don't heat things up in plastic in your microwave. Don't,
Mhm.
anytime that's when you have these little bits that break off into our food and we ingest them and they go somewhere. They don't all leave.
Yeah. Well, and going back to water for a second, this is a little off topic, but there's something really interesting. It's kind of a burgeoning science, and there's actual truth to it that we know, but it's very difficult to measure and understand. But
Okay.
it's that water actually holds certain structures to other things it's been introduced to.
Okay.
And so it appears that water holds structure in things like um, homeopathy,
Okay.
which looks totally like woo woo nonsense, right? Because it's like,
Okay.
okay, we start with this thing that would actually cause the problem that we're having, and then we reduce it down over and over again. We water it down essentially,
Okay.
and there's it. Like I said, it's very difficult to measure, but there's some what looks like credible science coming out suggesting that water actually can hold essentially potentially the inverse of the structure of the thing that would cause the issue with whatever the trying to think how to say it, the almost disease or whatever in your body. And then
Hmm.
homeopathy, every time you every so the water holds, the theory is at least the water holds that structure, and then each time you dilute it, it's almost like how electrons are like always paired, once they're paired always paired kind of a thing.
Right.
And that water has similar properties, that
Interesting.
it will hold the opposite pairing to something that would be damaging to us. And so that's why homeopathy, and it's just a hypothesis at this point, nobody can
Sure.
actually prove it, but it's just interesting to me that you know you were mentioning not microwaving something
Mm.
in plastic, but microwaves work because they're hitting the
Hmm.
water molecule
Yep.
and basically shaking it so fast that it heats.
Yep.
And what are we doing to water when we're microwaving it? If
Interesting.
if that hypothesis is even valid, but it from what I can tell, it looks like there's at least something to it.
I'm saying if there's some mechanism there, um, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a matter of time.
Well, because it's so interesting. I've seen like homeopathy work in ways that aren't explicable through, like what is it, the placebo effect,
Oh, okay. Right.
and like children who don't have any idea what they're even taking have total reversal of symptoms of different things.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So, anyways, just a thought on water as we're
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean,
digging
like,
through that.
but physical fitness, like tying into this, like, my daughter. I love my daughter. She does not drink enough water. Speaking of water, but and that's a reoccurring thing through society is not drinking enough water. I mean, I talk to our phlebotomists often in the hospitals, and they complain like, dude, it is so hard to get, because they love my vessels. Like they're just like, oh, dude, you're so easy. Like, I drink multiple a day. Like that's like, I think I'm on my third today. That's 40. Yeah, 40 ounces. And I used to drink more than that. Some depending on what I'm doing, if I'm physically active. That's a big part of physical fitness is proper hydration. Proper, and it's not just water. Like there's salts in there because we can't just survive on just water. That our bodies don't actually process pure water well. So
No. Yeah. And so I noticed you've got things you can do. I think it might be too much to try to get through all of them, but I'd love to hear what you do for, for just physical exercise. For me, I love hikes. So we do a lot of hikes as a family. And then a lot of the work I do is pretty strenuous. So I
I
just
was
don't
gonna say,
worry about it.
yeah, physical fitness for you is probably a lot easier than for a lot because of the type of work you do.
Yeah. It's not structured. So I'm not working, I don't have like leg day or something, but
Right.
um, I do get quite a bit of movement in each day.
Sure. I mean, so I'm in my basement. Down here, we've got our treadmill set up, which I don't use nearly as much as I intended, mostly because short ceilings and treadmills are terrifying because you're like in between the studs and it's just, yeah. I've got free weights down in the shop. And so when I don't have customers, I have weights. I can do rollouts with them. I can do overhead presses with them. I can do biceps, triceps. I can do squats. I can do a lot of stuff. And I go I go back and I watch our videos with Elliot because it's like, oh yeah, what was he saying about that? And I'll go find it. It's like, oh yeah, that's what it was. Okay, so I'm gonna try doing these lunges and I'm gonna do these isometric holds and I'm gonna try these. And if you have the time, if you have the place, um, do it. I mean, I know people in corporate offices who have the little walking pads, like pseudo treadmills, or the balance balls. I loved for a minute there. I stole one of our Sonotech's ultrasound technicians had gotten one of those balance ball seats,
Yeah.
and um, and she went on vacation, so I went and stole it. I loved that thing. Oh, I loved that thing. It was so fun because I'm fidgety, and so I could bounce, and it was great. But dude, the core engagement was palpable. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this really works. Like I have to sit up right. I have to have my shoulders back. I have to have my head aligned. Like this really, and it got my body used to being in that position, so that when I went back to my regular seat when she finally came back from vacation, I had better posture. I was like, oh, dude, that's rad. Like, it actually worked.
Cool. Yeah, I like those because I don't know, it kind of hurts my low back to do sit-ups
Yep.
just because how it engages with the ground. So using a exercise ball and putting my feet like under the corner of a bed or something,
Mm-hmm.
it allowed me to actually do the sit-ups without the pain from on my back, but
Yep.
also I had to engage my core a lot more because you have to keep from sliding from one side to the
Right.
other or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, and that's
But
a lot of what I've found. So it's probably similar to you. My lower back hurts when I do sit-ups until I found declined sit-ups where I was actually on an inclined bench, but I sat on it backwards and hung over backwards. And it like forced me to engage. And the other thing I want to say about physical fitness is flexibility. Um,
mhm.
Trying to maintain flexibility, especially as I'm getting older, um, it reduces the likelihood and severity of injury substantially. So even if we're not working out and pumping iron and getting ripped or whatever, doing exercises that allow us to have a full range of motion, super important and super useful, and in all aspects. I mean, gosh, the stuff that you do where you're rucking up and down hills with carrying loads and rock and tools, you could really easily hurt yourself
Mhm.
by overextending, by a missed step or whatever. But having that flexibility allows you to recover easier. Maybe take that stagger step and catch yourself. So yeah, flexibility I think is I almost put it in as a separate thing, but it kind of is tied into fitness, so I left it. But yeah.
No, I think that's good. Um, what are some basic skills that people should care about, and why should they care about them?
That was kind of my catch-all. I was trying to think of basic skills, and at first I was like, oh yeah, like being able to start a fire. I'm like, that's even advanced. Like that's not even like can you sharpen your knife? Do
Mhm.
you remember like how to use a whetstone? Like have you ever learned? Um, because technologies will fail. So like I've got cool diamond stone grinders and things like that for my knives, but what if I didn't have power? Well, can I do it old school? Can I just lay it down on a whetstone and run for it and get a good edge? I think I could. Um,
Mhm.
I'm pretty confident I could. But those little basic skills, and the best test I've had was somebody had posted on Instagram. If you want to see where your problems are on Friday night, turn off the breaker. You'll know by Sunday morning.
Mhm.
And I was like, dude, like, okay, we can make a fun game out of this. We can kill the breaker. My son would be ecstatic. He's like, can we go camping in the front yard? I'm like, yeah, we can do that. Like, okay, well, if we're going camping in the front yard, you need to have some fire because we got to make some dinner. So let's go for it. And so you get all of those very rudimentary skills are pretty much like just laid out in front of you because you have to, and you can have fun with it, and but you can remember those. When you were in Boy Scouts, did you learn all of the knots? Can you still do those knots? Do you remember the difference between a square knot and a granny knot? Can you do a bow line? Can you do a trucker's hitch? Can you do all of these knots that are really really useful because maybe you don't aren't going to have a ratchet strap, and maybe you still need to tie down that load.
Mhm.
Maybe you need to make a taunt line for an impromptu shelter.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. I think a knots class would be a would be a good one. Okay, so I'm kind of combining these things. I see
Yeah.
basic skills and why people should care about those, but also another point that you had or a subheader was don't ignore the boring skills. Was it
Yes.
boring?
Boring skill, yes.
Yeah,
Which point? Where was that? Oh, 8. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, number 8. But some of these skills are things that we've kind of hit on, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, ideas like I see, tool maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
right? So many people I see, especially who didn't grow up in the country, there's this mentality of I did the thing, and then the thing that I used to do the thing, which may not have even been the right tool in the first place, gets left wherever I just used it,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then it's, well, that got ruined. I need to buy a new one,
Buy a
or
new
I
one.
lost it, or why am I spending so much on tools? Um,
I love going to estate sales
mhm.
because I love looking through the old tools. And you look at these old tools and go, that dude rocked that same, set of screwdrivers and hand auger and all that since probably the 40s.
Yeah,
It's the same set. And you can see the wear and you can see how it's been, the wood's been replaced at least once or twice. It's duct taped together. Um, and we've lost that as a culture. The buying it once and then and keeping track of it and keeping it in good repair and keep using it until basically until the wheels fall off your old truck. You're just going to keep rocking that sucker,
yeah. Well, and
to our
there's
detriment.
for sure, and I think there's a couple things going on there. One, obviously, we've got a consumeristic society at this point,
Yes,
but the other is, you know, there's a lot of comments about, oh, they don't make them like they used to or whatever. People say that.
sure.
And in reality, I think there's a lot of survivorship bias in like tools or whatever because it lasted this long. So you see it and you're like, oh, they used to make tools so well. Well, it's like some, yeah, some no. And
Yes.
people did probably take a lot better care of them. But I'm sure there was cheap garbage,
Yeah,
back
it
in the
wasn't all craftsman. It
1920s,
wasn't
right?
all, yeah.
Yeah.
Mac or Husky or yeah, Snap On or all of the the good ones. Yeah,
Right.
you're right.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's a lot of junk, and what survived is what we see. So, anyways, but your point was having basic skills and don't ignore the boring skills. And tool maintenance really stuck out to me because I'm like, nobody really maintains tools. It's just you kind of use it until it's done. And
Yeah.
some of them are designed that way, but some of it is just we don't know how to maintain them anymore.
Yeah, I think the closest that we really get to maintaining is like, maybe if you might regrind your lawnmower blades. That
Hmm.
that would be about the probably the closest. But like you can do the same thing with your big lawn shears. Like if you've got some big old lawn clippers, you can do the same thing
Yeah.
using the same tools. Um, or get yourself a good rasp and you can carve yourself a new handle because that handle broke off. Cool, do it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of tools that have plastic handles.
Hmm.
Yeah, they don't, and they don't always last. That's true, but you can replace them with wood ones that will last, and or you can replace and repair.
Yeah. Yeah. You put a few other boring skills in here that I think are important to understand and know. Things
Land
like
nav,
sanitation,
yeah,
backup power. I mean, I could talk all day about kilowatt hours and how to measure and how to do the Ohm's law to come up with your kilowatt hours based on your volts and amps and all that. But most people are going to be bored to tears and not want to listen to that. But it's a good thing to learn because it, they're things you need to understand if you want to know how long your power backup is going to last. You have to
mm-hmm.
understand how to interpret that.
Yeah. I mean, my mother-in-law, she has a oxygen concentrator for when she's
Mhm.
sleeping, and I remember she had that question. She's like, "Well, if I needed to be able to power this without power, how do I do that?" I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll get you set up with a solar panel. I think I found like a little 300-watt panel. It was a decent one." And I'm like, "Okay," and then you need to be able to run for at least 12 hours because you know 8 hours of sleep, but then you're dotting to dusk, so it's not really going to be high productive. So you want a little buffer there, and could be rainy. Okay, and then we got to get a properly sized inverter, and we have the usage, like how many watts does this consume? So let's calculate it. We have this many volts, like you were saying, this wattage. So this is what our total amp hours are going to need to be for the battery, and so here's our battery bank size. Here's our charge controller for that size for this solar panel, and yeah, we built out a whole little system.
Nice. Yeah. And just knowing how that works, you can now apply it to all kinds of things. It's actually pretty simple, but it's to most people, unlike you and I, it's not very interesting.
Yeah, or it can be overwhelming and scary because
Yeah.
it's electricity. I get that, but it is um, it's not a horrible endeavor to learn something about electricity, and it's a fun. I think it's fun. I don't know. I know you think it's fun.
I do. All right. Um, privacy. Why should I care about privacy?
So hopefully I've been bugging my cousin Kevin about coming down and doing one about security and privacy. We live in a world where our privacy has become a bit of a commodity, and we've talked about ways of mitigating those risks, um, but it is definitely something that really we need to be cognizant of is maintaining a high level of privacy, and that's not just at home. That's not just on these horrible little trackers that we carry with us every day.
I
It's
call them fondle slabs.
what?
Fondle slabs
Why?
because people fondle them in their slab. I mean,
Okay, I mean, I was wondering which direction you're going with that. Okay, gotcha. Cool, got it.
people
But
are,
I mean, like,
where we don't have any clue. Even if if you're aware and you can accept what you're giving away for information, that's fine. I mean, that's your choice. But
yeah,
nobody knows, nobody understands what they're actually giving away and how it's being used against
How
them.
it's being used. I was like we can conceptualize like, okay, we're giving away our location information or our search criterias or conversations, but the way that that information can be compiled
Hmm.
and the information that can be extracted from that, the habits, the mindset. I mean, when all it takes is a couple of those things and they can tell you how you're going to vote just because of where you go, who you associate with. They just, they know that. And that's what I'm saying. Like privacy, we really need to prioritize. Our privacy is something that is kind of on the line. I mean, we're seeing it, with Flock and with some of these um, in more invasive documentation systems where, like, oh, well, we're not going to use it unless, I'm like,
Hmm.
yes, but you shouldn't have gathered it in the first place because there was no justifiable cause.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And so that reminds me, I went to Lowe's the other day, who partners with
Oh,
Flock, of course.
yep, they sure
And
do.
I know there's one angle I can drive into the parking lot without being
Oh,
tagged.
yeah, yes,
Like if you take a really specific route. So I just do that as not like I'm not being tagged a million other ways, but just as a matter of
it's about mitigation.
principle.
We,
Yeah.
we limit what we can.
But I do things like this little guy. It's
Yeah,
a Pi Zero, and I run. It's called Pi Hole.
yep.
Um, Basically, it blocks a huge amount of the trackers. I run, I run my own server for photos and videos and notes and calendars and everything else,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. And then I salt my data. Um, there's another guy, I put up a video recently of a guy who poisons his data
Yes.
by running bots on his systems. Um, but I mean, at this point, I'd say a third of my ads are in Spanish or
Yeah,
some other
you've
language.
done the right. You've been successful.
Now, some, three-letter agency, I'm sure, can point some quantum AI at it and
Oh
go,
yeah,
"Oh, we know what you are."
yeah.
But at least for the advertisers, they're not really sure.
That's
So
awesome.
it's kind of entertaining to see what pops up. Because basically the advertisers know my age, so I'm getting ads that are like super generic for people my age, but completely unapplicable to me,
Sweet.
which is entertaining as well. But yeah, I mean, privacy, what we can do to keep our information private, and
Mm-hmm.
then salting it, throwing in information that isn't accurate, and you know, um, that it's you want to do as much as you can to work towards that and to keep your data and your information, your kids' faces, everything else, like anything you can do. Um, realizing that if you post something on Facebook, they actually own that image for whatever they want to do with it.
Right.
All of our images for the past 20 years have, they're being used to train AI and send
Mm-hmm.
us ads and whatever else
Well,
they
and
want to do
when
with
the
them.
default condition is enabled for AI use, where you have to
Yep.
manually go in, like, oh no, I don't consent to it being used for AI. That
Yeah.
should be by default, not the other way around.
Yeah. Well, and when your computer decides to update every like 2 days, or your phone or whatever, and every time it updates, it resets all the default settings back, even though you don't
Yeah.
agree to it.
Oh, and
Uh,
Windows is
yeah.
horrible about their baked-in telemetry systems.
Mhm.
I'm like this close to just like, nope, we're just going Linux. I've
Yeah.
already Linuxed every laptop we've got because, well,
Yep.
it's easy to get old laptops. I get them for free because people are like, oh yeah, it's dead. I'm like Linux. Um,
Yeah. You
so
thought it was dead. Yeah. I've got a pile of them literally that I use for different things. And
yep,
yeah, everything's on Linux except for the computer I'm using right now and one
yep,
laptop. So I've got one Linux and one Windows laptop that I keep with me just in case
sure.
I need Windows for some stupid reason. Um, and this one's going to Linux soon too. I'm just going to have basically my video editing rig is all I'm going to have on
Hmm,
Windows anymore.
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you on that. And you can turn off a lot of the telemetry on Windows with a program called Win Arrow Tweaker.
Yep.
Uh, but they're making it harder and harder with Windows 11.
With every new patch, it's getting more difficult.
Yep, exactly. Um, all right, what else we got?
Yeah, we were just talking about offline technologies and AIs. Well, and it is. It's like, why should I care about, offline? It's because we don't want to divulge more information than we need to. We don't
Mhm.
want to become dependent on a system. That's like the antithesis of what we're going for. We're trying to become resilient, which is disconnecting from that requirement. So having it offline, and they don't need my data. They don't need to know what I'm searching for. When I can host my own large language model, it does what I need it to do. I don't need
Mhm.
them to do that for me.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to do this next week. We'll see, but I wanted to talk about you know tech for preparedness and homestead use,
Hey,
and then how to use that in a meaningful private way that doesn't make you dependent. And one of the
love it.
things that I found was a program called um, oh no, I'm blanking on it. Yeah. Sorry. Anyways,
All right.
it's a off grid. Um, they call it the off grid internet. Project Nomad.
Oh, Nomad. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it has a built-in, very simple AI, but
Uh huh.
basically that AI gets pointed at the files and things that you have, and you can make separate files for separate things.
Yeah.
And so you can use it like a localized search engine for the stuff that you already have. So you don't
Hmm.
have to dig through 20 reference manuals to figure out, what do I do about fly strike on my sheep, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Now you can say, what do I do about fly strike on my sheep? It'll search all of your references, and it'll come back and say, here's the most common, here's, one that's
Hmm.
a little further out, and here's the reference pages, so you can just pull it up however you want to. um,
Which is great. That's the way that I see AI being so beneficial. Um, because I mean, it's a large language model. It's predictive text. I mean, and we
right.
all know how good that is. I mean, whenever you go to text somebody and it fixes your text and it makes it all sorts of wrong, that's all AI is. It's just a predicted text. It's going, with 99.98% confidence. I think the next, word in this sentence in this context is going to be this, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and it predicts it. That's not all that helpful because you don't know where it's drawing its information from. But when you can say, "Hey, looking at this PDF of this, resource, what do I do about X, Y, and Z?"
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's super useful,
Yes, it's like the Dewey Decimal System on crack.
right? Yeah, and like, and fairly instant. Like I can just
Mhm.
boom, it's there. And then yeah, if you had more information that you wanted, you go, oh, it's on page 296 of the Ultimate Survival Handbook. Go to
Right.
Ultimate Survival Handbook. Hey, look, it's right there.
Yeah, or the Encyclopedia of Country Living by Carla
Yeah,
Emery, right? Now
right.
instead of, okay, I'm going to the index and I think it's going to be in this section, and 20 minutes later you've read through it. If you've got something that can give you a summary from the data you have, so it's not hallucinating, that's big. That can be
It really
really,
is.
really helpful. And if it's totally offline, if it's not, if you're not querying somebody else's servers and giving away all your information about what you're, that's what we've done with Google for 30 years now, right?
Right.
Is, hey, Google,
Yeah.
I have this lump on my whatever. How do I,
Yeah.
like, no, don't give Google that info. Like, that's going to be used against you somehow. At
Yeah.
very least, your information is going to be sold, but likely you're going to be manipulated down the line for having done that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, something like Project Nomad can be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Power independence. Why,
Why
why
should I
should
care
people
about
care
power
about,
independence?
yeah, or just having some resilience outside of the grid?
I mean, even if we weren't even looking at resilience, offloading some cost. Like if you could come into, I don't know, some really really cheap solar panels, um, and you can off some of your overhead on a daily basis and say, okay, well, my refrigerator and freezer, they're going to be rocking off of solar. And so I'm not having to spend that. Yeah, you're saving yourself, what, 65 cents a day? It's going to add up. I mean, like 365 days a year, that's going to add up. That's almost a raise. Like, it's like, even if we're not talking preparedness now, in an emergency, hey, your refrigerator and your freezer are going to function no matter what. Hey, that's awesome. You're more
Mhm.
resilient. Hey, you got another couple extra bucks because you saved it because your refrigerator and freezer are offline. You can save that up and get more solar panels, and now your AC is running offline too. Hey, look, you're saving $1.50 a day. It's one of those snowballs that's wonderful because it can help you become more financially resilient and power resilient at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that this is again a little bit of a tangent, but a way that you can actually save a lot more with a critical load solar electric system is if you were to think of, we've talked about it before, so I won't rehash what that is too much, other than it's the things that you would want to run basically off of a generator if power went out.
Mm-hmm.
And you put those onto solar. Well, your solar is probably during high generation times going to make more power than those systems need. And so something you could do is move more things onto the critical load solar, and then if
Yeah,
power goes out, you flip those breakers off.
sure.
And so
And
then
route it back.
yep, as your power is being produced via solar, you're running more things through that system. So if you're overproducing during the daytime, you're able to use some of that overproduction, rather than trying to like sell it back to the electric company or
Yeah,
something.
don't do that.
That's no, it's not
I mean,
useful.
because they're paying cents, like just pennies. Like, well, if they're going to pay me 5 cents, but to me it's worth 15 cents a kWh, why wouldn't I just keep it and use it?
Right. Yeah, and if you've got the battery storage for it, great. But if you're
Especially if you got the battery storage for it,
yeah,
yes.
so yeah, if you throw more things on that side of it and then just shut them off if you have a power outage,
Right.
um, that can actually start to make that equation make more sense as far as the saving money.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm definitely not saying like go out and buy a Tesla power wall or whatever they called that thing, and they're so like that's a lot of money, and that's
Mhm.
not going to pay for itself anytime soon. But if you can come across some, really cheap panels, even if they're old, like, I mean, gosh, those panels that you pulled, those are probably at least, what, 15 years old?
Yeah,
10 years
they're
old?
close to 15 years old.
15?
They must
Yeah.
have been out of service for a little while because they're I did the calculations. They're working at about 92%
But still,
efficiency.
they're working at 92% efficiency.
Well,
And you
because
paid like $10 for them.
you're supposed to lose like 5% in the first year anyways.
Yeah.
So that's very close to, 1-year-old solar panels.
Yeah.
Um,
So, like, they're fantastic. And they were, what, $10? $15?
$10 a
Stupid,
piece. Yeah.
stupid cheap. So, yeah, if
Mhm.
you can come across, a deal like that, jump on that sucker.
Yep.
Do it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I put together what is essentially a critical load system that runs my shop now
Nice.
for $700. So I've got 100 into panels. I've got 700 into an entire battery inverter charge controller system. So 800
Wow.
bucks. I've basically got what I need to run my house in an emergency.
Exactly, and that's the thing. It's like you have that infrastructure now. It's there to support you in a moment of need, and it's not like you have to set it up. It's there. It's
Yeah.
functional.
Well, if that's, daunting for somebody, you could just go out and buy like an EcoFlow Delta
Yeah,
and have a small inverter generator on hand and just start up the generator for a bit when the battery gets too low.
yeah. Top it off, and
Yep. So, then that's super like stupid simple to do that. Those are just a couple of things that you buy and you're looking at, I don't know, 1100 bucks, something right in there,
yeah,
which
which isn't
isn't
horrible.
terrible.
Yeah,
It's not as cheap as what I was talking about and it's not as
no,
capable, but
nope. But
it's
it's
off the
convenient.
shelf. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to work. You don't have to fuss with it.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for, it just working. I get that. I like building my own guitars. They're fun, but they're fiddly, and then I'm always having to fuss with them. Buying something that actually, I don't know, works is really nice.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely. I wanted to hit on why community resilience matters.
Oh, it matters so much, and that should have been my first thing, and it should definitely be our last, or not our last, but it really is the crux of all of it, because like you and I are we're good with electronics. You're good with plants. I'm not. Um, I can fix stuff, but I need somebody who's good with plants. I need somebody who's good with animals. I need somebody who's who can teach me other things that I don't know. We need community. We need each other. We're not lone wolves. This is not a zombie apocalypse movie. We're not going to survive on our own, and we're not going to be all. We're not going to know it all, and we shouldn't. It's not that we shouldn't try, because we should try to learn things, and it's not even we should stay in our lane. Um, Maybe it's just not having so much pride in being that one man show.
Yeah.
I, th- I find myself, being arrogantly prideful, and maybe this is a me thing. Maybe this isn't everybody else. Um, Being arrogant in thinking, oh well, I'll be fine because I'm clever. Um, Being clever isn't sufficient. Um, I wouldn't want to live in a society that was just full of the remnants of all of the clever people. That would be horrible.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I certainly sympathize with like not wanting to look dumb or not wanting to. It's not even that I care about like being the smartest person in the room or something, but not knowing bothers me,
Sure,
right? And that's, I guess, you know, what I do for a living. Having a broad knowledge base is really important,
sure,
but I don't know everything. I have to be. There's a lot of times where I'm talking with a client and I'm like, you know what? You know more about this topic than me. Tell me about it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
tell me. And I've had to, that's been an effort for me to step back and go, I can admit that somebody else knows something more or knows something that I don't know, and I need to learn from this. I need to take the opportunity and not go, yeah, I understand, and go, no, wait a second, I have not heard about that before. Tell me more.
sure,
Yeah, it's hugely important. And community. The other thing about resilience here is, um, Amish barn raisings are a thing,
yes,
and they'll try to move a barn by yourself. You're not going to do it. Try to move a actual structure with like 150 Amish people, and they'll do it. Right?
it's amazing watching
It's
them just walk a barn down the road. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this has got to be AI, right? Nope, it's full
yeah,
on legit. They're
yeah,
walking it down the road.
yep. So the other thing I'm thinking about here is not just the strength in numbers when they're needed. The ability to move and flow in such a way where one person really needs help right now and another person needs help later, and one person may never even need that help, but they're part of the community anyways. um, there was I won't mention names here, but there was a community member in one of the communities I'm part of who ended up passing away really pretty suddenly, not unknown, but from like cancer. So it was a really
Okay.
fast moving. And
Oh,
he had been he had helped everybody and anyone at any time possible, basically. Right.
sure.
And he passed away, and his wife had, uh, life insurance and things. So she was going to be okay financially, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of things on their farm and that they had to deal with that, you know, he took
sure,
care of. And now they've
sure.
like he had built this social capital over a number of years, just being a good person, not because he was
Yeah,
trying to do something. And then when the time came, like if his wife needs help from community members,
yeah.
all she has to do is call or text, and she's going to have a group of people there to help her out, because of
That's
his
awesome.
kindness and decency. And she's
Right.
she's great too. But he was always helping out and always right there on the front lines. And community matters, and that's not going to be quickly forgotten.
That's awesome. That's super cool. I mean,
Yeah.
that yes, that's really cool.
Yep. So I'm thinking maybe we hit a couple more of these, and
Okay.
what were kind of your next couple of things that um, you thought of as to why, like, things people should actually care about that they might not.
Um, Gear you already own. That was one of the ones that I was thinking about because a lot of us we have stuff. We you go in your garage and you're like, oh yeah, I've got that chainsaw. I've got the reciprocating saw. I've got um. There's a lot of value in that stuff that we don't really think about,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something your pantry. There's a lot of you're already prepared for stuff if you have a good stocked pantry. So you already have, and I would assume that most probably all of our watchers and listeners probably do have a decent pantry. So I don't want people to feel an undue burden to go out and, oh, I need to spend $10,000 and you know build out this massive pantry full of freeze dried foods, and I need to go buy all these specialty tools. No, that's the whole thing. It's like, no, we're living life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just buying an extra can here or an extra can there of what you actually eat. It's not about buying extra stuff. I know I sell freeze dried food in the shop, um, and I have freeze dried food here. We actually do eat it. It's pretty good, but that's definitely not the priority. What you already have is the priority. The way you live life is the priority. We want to maintain that as much as possible, and that's why I'm not talking about the zombie apocalypse. I'm talking about a snowstorm. I'm talking about, heck, you're having a friend that lost their husband, and they just need a meal.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got extra food on the hey, let's make a lasagna, take it to her,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. Or are you ready to lose a couple of weeks of work because you broke your arm? Or
Right.
you know what do you have, like, are you ready for the most likely scenarios that are generally going to be short term? And are you ready for the zombie apocalypse, but if you lose your job for a couple of weeks,
You're screwed.
you're right,
The
you're still
irony of
over
that, yeah.
yeah. And you can't keep your house because the financial system still exists, but you've got all the food stockpiled because you thought that everything was going to collapse.
But the tax man cometh and repos your house because property taxes theft.
Right.
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, and okay, like I think I even threw it in there. Most likely, you've got camping gear. Your
Hmm.
camping gear is really great. I mean, that means that you can cook off grid. Like if the power goes out, you've got camping gear. You
Yep.
can you can whether it's a propane stove or just a little griddle that you can throw over a open fire or whatever. You've got options. So don't it's kind of self defeating. Don't come to the shop and buy stuff. Use what you got.
Yeah. Fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Look at inventory what you have. Take a sober thought of what is the most likely thing, and then prepare, like, fill in the gaps. Like, going to your store and buying stuff doesn't need to be, well, I need a second cooktop stove in case. Well, no, maybe a griddle would be the thing that you need. Or what is the, what are you missing? Maybe you need I don't know, a propane adapter so you can adapt a
No. To a one
little
pound
tiny
bottle to
propane,
a yeah, yeah, right. Well,
to a
and a lot
five
of the
gallon.
so when a lot of the times when guys come in, I don't say guys, people come in and we get to talking, their need isn't usually in the more grandiose preparedness items. Usually, what we end up discovering is their concern is being able to get home
Hmm.
to their preparedness items and their families. And so usually what I end up doing is helping them build some kind of a get home bag. And then that usually spurs the conversation of like, okay, how far are you going? Um,
Hmm.
physical abilities, like how far can you walk? Okay, let's, is this a 1 day bag? Is this a 2 day bag? And that's a better conversation. Um, and it's a more productive line of thinking, because yeah, I don't want people spending $10,000 on freeze dried food. However, a couple freeze dried foods in a backpack will keep you going for several days, and
Right.
that's probably and you're $30 into a couple freeze dried meal packs. That's a reasonable thing. That's
Hmm.
a good thing to have in your vehicle, because you might get broken down on the side of the road. The kids start complaining, "I'm hungry," because they didn't eat the breakfast that you gave them. Not speaking from experience.
Yeah.
And you're
Not
like,
not
"Hey,
something that's happened to you recently.
nope, not at all." Um, hey, like, oh, I don't have any water, but I've got a water filtration system. So there's a creek right there. Go get you some good water. Let's, bust out the little camp stove, or, start a little fire, boil some of that water, throw it into the freeze dried food, make up, this little chicken and mashed potatoes or whatever you got, eat while I'm changing the tire, whatever. That's a good thing.
Yeah, well, and I think most people, when they have a 72-hour bag or a get home
Mhm.
bag or whatever, where you end up seeing that being used is, oh, we're making a trip to the ER. And now you've got stuff with you. You've got to change
Yes.
your clothes. You've got, what you've got the things that you need. And it's kind of mundane. Everybody's gone to the ER at some point. And
Yep.
having this bag that has the things you need in it is it's just a good thing to have. It's not about, society collapses and you have to get home. Maybe
No.
it could be used for that, but that's not the most likely. Like society doesn't collapse in a day, typically.
Not typically, no.
No, I mean now with electricity, an EMP or a coronal mass ejection could
Or-
cause that, but generally speaking, society, empire crumbles over time, and we may be, in my opinion, we're in the midst of that, but it doesn't mean that tomorrow everything goes away. There's a
no, we still got to
different,
go to work. We still got
yeah,
taxes to pay. It's all the
yeah,
boring stuff. Well, yeah, because I've encountered more people riding my motorcycle up to Cookville one time, and dude was walking along the side of the road, just flat collapsed, fell right. It was the hot day. He was diabetic. I had my stuff with me, so I stopped on the side of the road, flagged down a sheriff. He called an EMS, but we got to sit with him. I had some stuff with me that I could help him out with, get his blood sugar at least up ish, um, and keep him stabilized and keep him awake.
hmm,
That's more likely. I mean, you're more likely to come across a car accident. You're more likely to have a car accident. You're more likely than to find a mob of raiders looting their way through civilization. Like, no, but
right.
yeah. So I digress.
Well, and that goes back to things like critical thinking, and we've done some podcasts on logical fallacies and critical
Yeah,
thinking. So if people want to listen to those, you can go back. I don't know, a few weeks, couple months, whatever it is, because I think that's important too. Like you know, as we're thinking through what's the most likely, what should I actually prepare for? Some of this critical thinking and being able to think in the moment through something without the fear, without the other biases attached is really important.
definitely. Well, and that's why I want people to go out and actually use this stuff, because in that critical moment, you're not going to be thinking well. And so you're going to fail down to your training,
Hmm.
not live up to your hopes and expectations.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think training is actually a kind of a bigger takeaway than some of these others. Is why should I care about training? Why should I care about knowledge and skills? And
Yeah, and that it kind of undergirds everything. Like you said, it just undergirds everything. It is, why should I care about water filtrations? Because it's important, and you should get out and use it. Like,
yeah.
how many people have life straws and have never actually busted one out and tried to actually drink from one?
Hmm.
They suck. Ha ha
Yeah.
ha. But they do. They're horrible. You're having to stick your face right down in the water and drink from this thing. It takes all of that suction power just to get it up through that filter element. It takes a lot of effort just to get a little bit of water. that's that, but you don't realize that that effort is that's going. Well, if you're in a dire situation, that's not when you want to be, exerting extra energy to be able to drink water.
Right.
Yes, I have a life straw. I do because it is a last ditch effort. It's not my priority. I've got my Sawyer with a bag because I want to let gravity do as much as I can possibly, and I don't want to be. I don't want to reduce my ability to monitor my situation. So I don't want my face down in the water, sitting there drinking, because that's where predator animals will come to eat because
Hmm.
they know that deer do the exact same thing. They stick their face down in the water to drink. That makes them vulnerable. I don't want to be vulnerable. So I'm going to scoop some water up and I'm going to hightail it up the hill and I'll filter up there. But we have to actually use this stuff. So, yes, experience is really, really important to get out and actually ruck with the stuff and use the stuff to know it works.
Yeah. And, I think it's so easy to get lost in the weeds on all of this, right? Because,
Oh, sure.
um, you can get really lost in the primitive skills
Yeah.
or bushcraft. It's
Yeah.
like some of that is good. You need to know how
Yeah.
to start a fire and how to not make it create a forest fire and how to
Only
use,
prevent forest fires.
yes, how to use different things. But like what I find is that a lot of people end up who teach this stuff get siloed in something.
Sure.
And so then it's difficult to find information without ending up down a rabbit trail that distracts you from other things. So I think that's one of the big takeaways for me is thinking through how do you learn the skills that are actually important without going too far down that road or too far down some other road.
Yeah.
How do you store food without becoming a hoarder of freeze dried goods.
Right.
um, so yeah, it's a balance, and it's actually kind of hard to find good information on that.
Unfortunately, it is because a lot of that information, like you said, is either it's siloed, um, or it is prepared by people who have gone down those rabbit holes and who have kind of blinders on, like, no, this is the way you got to do it. You've got to be prepared this way.
Hmm.
But no, you don't. And so having that high level, that 30,000 foot view, and that's kind of why I did so many different topics because I didn't want to dive down too much in the weeds because there's a lot of topics. There's a lot of stuff that we kind of need to think about.
Yeah,
And
for
we
sure.
and you're right. We don't need to dive down too deep into the weeds in any one of them in particular. Because like we didn't talk about communications. We didn't talk about some of the other aspects. We didn't talk about defensive things. We can, but like those are it can get really really muddy real fast.
Yeah, because you get like a guy who's obsessed with jujitsu or with
Yeah,
you know
which is a cool endeavor. Like bro, that's awesome. Like yeah,
right.
I don't want to grapple with you. You're right, but a gun's really useful too.
Yeah. Or you look at even trying to think what else is a good example of getting too lost in the weeds, but with communications, ham radio operators. Like
I love and
some of
hate
them are
hams.
amazing, some of them
Yeah.
are the worst.
Yes.
And
They
I
are
get
the
it. They're
FUDs of the communication world. Like,
yeah. Um
golly.
and it's like how can you encourage people instead of telling them they're doing everything wrong and they can't, right?
Right.
So anyways, yeah, you can get in anything, you can get so down in the weeds that you miss the important things. It's missing the forest for the trees, rather than having kind of a broad knowledge and broad ability to figure things out.
And having
'Cause
the community of having other people. Because, yeah, I don't know everything, but, between all of us, we should be able to cover a huge, huge swath of what needs to be known.
yeah, and if it's fire starting, there's probably 15 different ways I can think of off the top of my head to
Right.
start a fire. And I don't know, you could probably whip your glasses off and it make a little,
Right.
like, I don't know if glass, if that depends on
These
the
are for
curvature or
astigmatism,
whatever.
so no. But yeah,
Yeah. Um,
nearsighted or farsighted, you can do it. But yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so there's so many different ways to do it. And somebody who has a broad knowledge base and understands how things work is going to do a lot better than somebody who's got a narrow knowledge base. Um, in one or two areas.
Hmm. Well, and if we look back in history, that's what we saw in the westward expansion. The pioneers were incredibly broad knowledge based individuals. They
Mhm.
knew everything from growing stuff to trapping stuff, how to prepare furs, how to sew and darn socks, how to make homes, how like basic metallurgy. Like there was a lot because they knew there was no support. There was no local hardware store. It was them. There was no neighbors. Like your closest neighbor might be a couple miles away, and in the middle of a snowstorm, that might as well be Mars. It's just you.
Mhm.
So you needed to have, a very broad knowledge base. Wonderfully, we don't have that issue because we have friends, we have community. So we can have a broad knowledge base and still have a hardware store and
Right.
friends.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that I'm like, I'll get a question or come across something, and I'm like, I don't know for sure. And it's, oh, I know who I can ask, or I know who I can, like, I've got people who want to set up family compounds. I'm like, have you thought through
Yep.
the legal structure of that yet? Well, no, we're just gonna, parents were gonna buy a property. We're all gonna put a house on it. I'm like, I know a
Yeah.
guy who's a lawyer who's actually studied this. Why don't you give him a
Nice.
call? At least he'll
That's
get you
cool.
pointed in the right direction, but maybe he'll be able to set up the entire thing for you. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Designing a true family trust and how that functions is wonderful. It is a good thing. And I highly recommend everyone going and talking to a lawyer and getting a good family trust set up. Worth every penny. But you have to know that that's a thing. Like there's so
mhm,
many people are like, oh, I've got a will. That doesn't
it's not the
protect you
same.
from, no, that's not the same.
Yeah.
So, but you wouldn't know that until you've experienced it, until you've lived through having someone passed away and having to go through probate or whatever. And what an unbelievable, unmitigated, ridiculous. Yeah, it's
Yep.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess my takeaway is understand broad skills,
Yeah.
think about what the most likely thing is, and care. You should care about it because it actually matters. Next time we have an ice storm, do you want, and you can't get out to get to the grocery store, do you have some food on hand? Do you have a way to prepare it? Do you have a way to keep your house warm? Do you have a way to keep your electricity on? Have you thought through these basic things and plugged some of the big holes before you get all worried about some tangential unlikely scenario?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Before we plan for EMPs and zombies, let's take care of tomorrow
Yep,
and next week.
absolutely. Well, Jared, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Unless you have anything else, do you want
Oh,
to
that's good.
kind of tell people what you do?
I don't know what I do. So I'm Jared. I own and run Resilient Living. So we're physically located between Spencer and Sparta, on right on the corner of Highway 11, corner of Hodges Ferry Road. So you can come by the shop and hang out if you're in the area, if you're traveling through, if you're going, Chattanooga, Cook Bowl route. So you can stop by the shop. It's an interesting one. It's a kind of what do you call it?
Well, I called it a
Curated.
clown. Oh, curated. Yes, it's a. I
It's
know
a
this
clown
is a.
shop.
It's a clown. No, it's like a clown car, right? You're like,
It's
how
bigger
is
on
all
the
that
inside,
stuff in
right?
there? But yeah, you said a TARDIS, which
Yes.
if people understand that reference, I think is probably a better way to put it, because it doesn't infer or reference clowns. But no, it's curated. Like you've actually taken the time to look at the items, test the items. You know what you're selling, as opposed to you get your Amazon or Wish.com or Timu stuff
Yeah.
where you're like, what it because Amazon has basically become Timu,
It
and you're
really
like,
has. It's
you order this
bad.
thing, and you're like, well, this doesn't do any of what I expected it to, or it's different than described, um, and you've taken that pain away. Even it might cost a little bit more. It might actually cost less than if you had to do all the work yourself to find it, but it's so worth it to have a knowledgeable person curate the stuff for you. So
Well, and
I'm a big fan.
that's what I thank you. That's what I enjoy doing is I like doing the research and honestly I buy the stuff from Amazon and Temu and test it. And
Mhm.
what was it? There was a belt, the Ido Gear belt. It was this like tactical, like everyday carry belt. It's the best thing. It's a piece of plastic wrapped in canvas. It is not worth anything. I think they were charging like 25, $30 for this. I'm like, don't.
No.
When you can spend just a little bit more and get a true made in America. There's a guy in Texas, Second Amen Tactical, Second Amen, something or another. Really cool dude. I think he's British. He came to America like 15 years ago, set up shop, and he's making really good, solid, American-made, full 700D canvas, double-stitched, like behemoth belts. They're awesome, and they put these stupid Ida Gear things to shame for not that much more money.
Yeah.
So like there's good options out there, and I test it. I try it. I want to see if it's
Mhm.
worth it. It's not usually. And so yeah, it might end up costing you more if you come to the shop and you buy something, but it's so that you don't have to, it's buy once cry once. Like I don't. It's a value thing. I don't want to go to the top of the range because yes, it's nice, but it's not worth the cost at that level. When you can come down here and go, yes, I understand. I'm accepting that it's not going to be this perfect, work of art. It's functional, it's solid, and it's most importantly worth the dollars because it's really important to me that because money's tight. I get that. I really, really get that. And I want your dollars to go as far as they possibly can for every item you buy. And so I don't have a lot of options per item because I don't want you having to spend more than you have to. So I've really tried to dial in my inventory to being the best bang for the buck, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important. The best ROI, the longest lasted for the best price. Because man, there's so much. Like you said, you can spend 50% of the price of the really good thing and get something that falls apart in a few months. And you can spend another 200% above what that cheap thing was and have something that's not actually better for your situation, but it's more expensive because there's some part of it that made it more kind of elite or needed for a given
Usually it's that
task.
that name that's on there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's what
usually it.
costs.
Right. But a lot of times, that thing that really costs a lot more is because of something premium that you probably don't even need um,
True.
for that specific thing. So yeah. Anyways, I'm blathering on about it
You're
because
good.
I really love the stuff you carry and how carefully you've curated,
Oh, thanks.
and kind of rode that line of best ROI.
So yeah, like I said, if you're in the area, stop by the shop, come out, say hi. We're open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 6. If you're not in the area, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, X. I'm on all of them, and on the ticker you can see it. So it's resilientliving.com. So check us out. How about you, Ryan?
I am the homestead consultant. So people can find my information at thehomesteadconsultant.com if you want help setting up your homestead or making your homestead more efficient. I always, my elevator pitch is essentially, if I can't save you way more than it costs to have me out, I don't want to do business with you because that's kind of the whole point.
Right.
You can find, and if it, financially doesn't work for you to hire me or you just want information, I try to put out as much truly useful information on YouTube as I can. So if you just search the Homestead Consultant on YouTube or at the Homestead Consultant on YouTube, you'll find all my back catalog of videos as well as our back catalog of podcasts that we've been doing. And with that, I also want to mention that we're finally on Apple Podcast.
Yep.
So you can find us at the Resilient Living Podcast.
Resilient Living Podcast.
Yeah. But the is important, right? For the searches. Is that
Podcast is. So there's a whole bunch of Resilient Living podcasts, but
okay?
calling it the Resilient Living Podcast helped. I don't know. It's
okay. Weird. So if you put podcast on the end of that when you're searching in your podcast feed, that's going to help find us.
I've got it linked on the top. It's a pinned on my Facebook page. So if you come to my Facebook page, it's pinned to the top for Spotify. I don't think I have the YouTube or the Apple one pinned
Okay.
up there yet.
I think that's in the links that I put together. So that should be in, if you're watching this on a video, it should be in the description as well.
Yep, it is.
Awesome. Well, I think that does it. Thanks for being here, Jared. And thanks everybody for watching.
Alrighty. Have a good night.